Hey, it's Coach T. In this video on Python from the Quick Code series, we are going to look at lists. Lists are a really powerful means of storing multiple elements that we can iterate over, we can process through, we can update them, we can pop them. That's one of the fun Python names. And once you're beginning to move from declaring basic variables to actually starting to compute with them, you're going to want to have an array of tools in your toolbox for creating, well, arrays of information. So if you know anything about my quick code videos, these are designed to be really beginner friendly. So if you are an adult learner like myself and you're trying to get over the raw rocks of getting started with Python and beginning to build cool things, this is a video for you. If you're an adolescent, you're trying to learn to code, but maybe you don't have the school resources, this is a video for you too. Okay, so we're going to talk about lists. In order to do this, though, you do need to know how to declare variables. So if you don't know anything about variables in Python, I'd recommend you back up and check out one of my other videos, or you could go over to a channel like Clear Coding. You could go over to the Python documentation. We3Schools is a great resource. I am not the only teacher here, and I am also a learner. Most of my time now is spent in C#, so you're going to get a little bit of the experience of being a rusty beginner developer because sometimes I forget the syntax, but I want to show you what that looks like honestly so that if I struggle, you can see my process for how do I get over my struggles. Because that's one thing I don't think I've done a great job of modeling. I've talked about it, but I haven't done a great job of modeling how do I get over screwing up. Because it's okay to screw up, and senior developers screw up all the time. That's why we've spent so much time developing these kinds of self-checking, auto-checking tools that are in your IDE or your editor. It's okay to mess up, especially when you're first learning, because you're not just learning a new language, you're learning a new structure of thinking, and that is not easy. So give yourself a little grace. All right, with that said, if you do like this kind of head-first practical application to learning to code, subscribe to the Coach T channel. You can ask questions in the comments. You can leave tips for other new beginners. Either way, I appreciate it, and I'm going to get right on with the video because I want to keep this at 8 minutes or less. So we're going to learn about lists in Python in this video. The big idea that you need to take away, I have a string on my sleeve, is that lists store multiple elements. And unlike in some languages, you don't need to declare how many elements will be in that language. It is a living list. That's going to drive me crazy. It's a living organic list, I guess, for lack of a better term. It can have an infinite number of items, but it starts with nothing, right? And then we need to add things to it. The other nice thing about lists in Python is that lists can contain elements of multiple types. This is a big idea because, again, I spend most of my time in C# now, and I can only have lists of one type. So I can have a list of strings. I can have, like I just ripped off my sleeve, I can have a list of ints, decimals, floats. I can have a list of class objects, but I can't mix them. So Python, because it is a dynamically typed language, allows you to mix what goes on or into your collections, your arrays, I guess, because Python doesn't have an array the same way that Java or C# does. And we're starting with lists because I do think it is the simplest to understand. So here's the syntax to declare a new list. We want to have new list equals, right? That's our assignment operator. And then this. That's it. The square brackets right here, that indicates that everything that comes within that list is going to be a list, right? We don't want to get this confused with curly braces. Curly braces indicate a dictionary. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. And we don't want it to be your regular parentheses because that indicates a tuple, which we will get to next. That's after lists. But lists are square brackets. Now, the thing that you do need to know is if I have two items inside of my list like this, you can kind of already see it's going to throw an error, right? We need to use commas to separate the elements in a list. Now, this list contains two elements. It contains two integers. Let me change this. So 5 and 4, right? Those are our two elements in this list. But what if I want to have something a little bit more complicated? Like I want to have a string of a name, Coach T, I do need to put a string in my double, or I believe in Python it works with single quotes too. In C# you got to use single quotes for characters. In Python it doesn't matter. All right, anyway, now what if I want to have a phone number? We'll do 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0, right? That fulfills the American phone number length obligations of 10 numbers. So, okay, we've got our zip code. Now we've got the actual local area code, right? And I want to have an email, which this doesn't go anywhere, but that's okay. So coacht@coacht.com. Sure, whatever. And I want to have, I don't know, the number of cc's in my motorcycle, 500 cc, Honda Rebel. Nice bike, not as snappy as I thought it was when I first bought it, because I was coming from a 250. But you know what? It's nice and it's not super loud, so I can like get up and go right out of my driveway in the morning and not disrupt my neighbors' lives. So anyway, we have our new list now. And you might be wondering, okay, great. How do I get things out of my list, please? Well, we need to get used to this concept of zero-based indexing. And this is where your intuitive counting sense is going to require a little bit of conscious effort. I don't want to say re-education because that means something different. But when your computer counts, and this is true in almost every programming language, and the ones where it isn't true, it's contentious. When your computer counts, it starts from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's actually a bad example. It should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when the computer's counting, when it gets to the 4th element, it's actually on the 5th item in the list. That can be pretty confusing at first. And I remember constantly getting in my own way. And even now, yesterday I was working on a procedural programming thing for Learn.Microsoft and C#. That sounds like I was building it for them. I was practicing with that material. And I had to do zero-based indexing, and I had to keep going back up and like counting because I could not for the life of me retain what element I was trying to select out of this list. So you got to get used to using zero-based indexing. So let me give you an example. Let's say I want to get Coach T out of this list. I just want to get the username, right? So I might do a Python print command like we'll do F for format, and we'll do name, and then we'll do inside the curly braces, we'll do new list, and here's how we access it. Within the square braces, 0. And you can see it's no longer throwing an error. So what I'm saying is I want you to grab from the new list the 0th element, which is this one. And I don't know if, no, it doesn't look like Visual Studio will highlight it for me. It's highlighting all the other zeros in that list. That's okay. Let's run the program and see what it gives us. Yep. Oh, there's some stuff down below. Ignore that. So I got name Coach T. Now, what if I want to get my email? Well, I have to go 0, 1, 2. So even though it's the 3rd element in the list, it is the 2nd index. Index number 2 is probably a better way to explain that. All right, let's... Oh, I got my own way. I clicked too quickly. Let's delete that one. And we'll delete that one, and we'll rerun the program. And we are going to wrap it up after this. All right, there it is. So by using... Scroll down a little bit. By using index number 2, we access the 0, 1, 2 element, and we get the email, right? Okay, we went a little bit long, about a minute and a half over. When we come back with the next video next week, we're going to look at modifying lists, which is another great skill to have under your cap. We might even do some list computation. So that's it for me. I'm Coach T. If you like this kind of head-first, step-by-step, hopefully very beginner-friendly content, consider subscribing to my channel. I'm happy to have taught you today. Hopefully the audio is way better in this video. I am trying to make it better. And I will see you next week. Have a good one.